everyone. Welcome. My name is Lorraine Charles, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Migration Summit and the director of NAML. We're so excited to have you here today for this session, which is very dear to me because it's hosted by an organization which I met when I was first doing my research to start NAML. So I'll tell you about them in a sec. So I just want to talk about the Migration Summit. The Migration Summit 2024, organized by MIT Emerging Talent, Namal and Karam Foundation, is a week-long global convening designed to build bridges between diverse communities of displaced learners, universities, companies, social enterprises, policymakers, employees, and governments around key challenges and opportunities for refugee and migrant communities. The aim is to bring diverse perspectives to drive meaningful dialogue and action. This year, we're exploring the theme, Unlocking and Engaging Talent, Pathways for Dignified Work. I'm so excited to introduce Education for Employment. And as I said, when I was doing my research in Jordan, where I got the idea from NAML, Ghadeer is one of the people that I met. I was really inspired by the work that she was doing and wanting to find a way to create change. And this is way before COVID that we met for the first time. We actually met in Dubai the first time at an event a long time ago. So Ghadeer and team from Education for Employment Jordan, I'm so excited to have you here today. For the third time with the Migration Summit, they're one of our Migration Summit core organizations because we know the work they're doing is incredible and really making an impact. So Ghadeer, over to you and your team.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. It's such a great pleasure to be here today, the third year working with the Migration Summit, MIT, NAML, and the whole amazing team in highlighting. Every year we're trying to highlight a little bit of the interventions the EFE is trying to do in Jordan and the region. And the beauty of this summit in particular is that it's allowing us to highlight these points, and then there are usually lots of follow-ups with several people who are joining the session right now, or maybe later when you guys share the link to other people. So this is the whole purpose of our participation. We like to shed light on some of the activities we do, and we try to diversify every year towards something a little bit different, and then be able to expand and be able to highlight stories, success stories, and things that allow us to think together with partners or potential partners who are listening to us today or in the future. So it's such a great pleasure and honor to be here today. And we hope you are going to enjoy the topic of today. So I'm going to start with the presentation that is going to shed light on our topic today. So basically, we're going today to speak about examples of sustainable economic development activities for refugees that have been implemented by EFE-Jordan through the years. We want to start by speaking a little bit about migration, of course, as many people know, but just in case new people have this interest from the people who are joining us today. Migration refers to the movement of people from their homelands to other countries, either voluntarily or not, depending on the situation and whether they want to go to that place or they are running from a threat, for example. So also another very quick overview about Jordan. The population in Jordan is around 11 million people. 3.3 million of them are migrants who are either refugees or workers who are migrant workers working in different sectors. From the 3.3 migrants, about 2.9 million refugees distributed between Palestinians, Syrians, and others. So basically, also there are migrant workers from Egyptians and other nationalities. Of course, these numbers you see on the slide are those who are already registered in the system. There are other numbers from all of these nationalities who probably might not be registered in the system. So just taking this into account, but these are the ones who are identified by the IOM And these are the numbers we're talking about. Now, the government of Jordan has regulated these people joining the workforce in different types and different mechanisms and laws and all of this. So Egyptians, other nationalities, and other refugees and migrants have different sort of laws that are regulated by the government. I want to speak a little bit about the EFE-Jordan to give you a big picture about the programs we're doing right now. So basically, EFE is a nonprofit organization. We are part of a network, of an affiliate network that works in Jordan, Palestine, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, with support offices in the US, Madrid, and Dubai. Each entity is registered as a local entity in its own country. So, for example, in Jordan, we're a non-profit organization registered as a local Jordanian entity. We benefit a lot, of course, from this network where there is lots of system change, this system sharing and knowledge sharing and lots of activities that we do together. One of them is, for example, I'm encouraging people to visit MENA, yes, Youth Employment Summit that is going to take place in October in Casablanca, which is organized by EFE, and all of the affiliate network is participating to highlight the employment issue in MENA. So these are the type of things, the type of activities the EFE network collaborate, for example, to highlight. Now, we want to inform you that we actually create economic opportunities for youth in Jordan by identifying the market needs and then provide training for income generation or generating activities and opportunities. So EFE is a demand-driven organization. We find the demand or the economic opportunity in the market first, and then we find youth who match these opportunities. So we do lots of career guidance, career counseling in order to be able to do the matching properly, which enables us to reach very good income generating percentages of youth through our programs. So far, EFE-Jordan has trained more than 31,000 youth since 2006. And as a whole EFE network, we have trained more than 190,000 youth across the EFE network. Between 80 to 85% of the EFE-Jordan's graduates are connected with income generating opportunities, and the reason for this success rate is the selection of youth that are very relevant to each program, but also selecting programs that are directly high in demand in the market. So we know where the youth are going to end up being matched with which economic opportunity. So the matching sort of enables us to have better success rates always. 20% of those are refugees, and almost 70% of them are women, which is very important because, as you know, the women participation in the labor market in Jordan is about 14%. So we try to compensate by enrolling more women into our programs, encouraging them to join the workforce. And we hope that through our programs, this gives them the first step so that they can continue in their careers. Now, so far, since 2017, we have trained more than 6,000 refugees. Of course, 2017, because the Syrian crisis started around 2011-12. And by the time they started coming to Jordan, and then the regulations, and then the acknowledgement of the systems and the laws put in place, the funding to start generating and so on. So it took a few years until really EFE-Jordan started designing programs to benefit and provide services for the refugees in Jordan. The Syrian refugees account for more than 95% of the refugees we're working with, because as you see, the other 5% are either the Palestinian refugees or the other nationalities, the Arab nationalities. But basically, most of our work today is with the Syrian refugees. This is just a very, very quick overview. This is a brochure that summarizes our activities as EFE-Jordan, and we're more than happy to share it with anybody who's going to email us perhaps after the session. We have a few email addresses we're going to share with everyone by the end of the presentation, and anybody can ask for this brochure we're happy to share with. But basically, it shows the overview that I have just mentioned about the network. The approach is a demand-driven approach, and the tracks starting from job training and placement track, which ends with full-time jobs, with social security, with medical insurance, contracts and benefits, and this targets both Jordanians and Syrians. The entrepreneurship track, self-employment track, mainly targeting women, and it enables women to work from home, either to sell goods or services. We prefer most of the times the services part because there is always demand for that, and we choose services that are in high demand in those areas. And we work with different entrepreneurs, either aspiring entrepreneurs who don't necessarily know how to start anything, even the ideation, or existing established entrepreneurs who we want them to help them grow their business, hire more people, generate more income, or startups. We also work with higher education track. We help students, university students or university graduates, to put together a better CV, better interview skills, job fairs, and so on. There are other activities such as the global job market. So we connect youth with global jobs, either by the online freelancing track or the business-to-business model, where we allow for connections between businesses outside Jordan and businesses inside Jordan, specifically in the ICT sector, that enable people to do these businesses, which creates jobs for Jordanians or Jordanian youth in Jordan. We provide upskilling for community-based organizations in Jordan, and we provide career counseling for public schools, and we conduct national awareness campaigns because we think there is lots of mindset change that we need to do in order to be able to reach more youth and make more impact. Also, we provide technical assistance and consultancies for different partners and donors, mapping, market mapping, assessment, gender issues, youth, employment, unemployment, and all of that. We have a track for engaging private sector in order for them to also help in designing programs for them, either upskill their own employees or train for their own new recruitment activities. We're currently managing 2 training centers. One is inside a big mall in Jordan. We're actually now sitting in that mall for the purpose of this presentation. And the other is in Ayla, Aqaba. And these 2 came as an arrangement from EBRD, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, where we are managing these two centers. This is a list of our board members. Of course, most of them are Jordanians, with Ron Bruder, the founder of EFE, and Andrew Bird, the CEO of EFE Global, sitting on the board. So this is a quick overview, and if anybody wants more or any clarification, we're happy to share with you. This is a sample of the donors and partners we have been working with, who have been supporting EFE's programs across the previous years. All of them have been great support. These are specifically the ones who have helped us work with the refugees, but we have a lot more who funded programs for the Jordanians in Jordan. So we get funding either from donors who are interested or focused on helping refugees, or those who help only Jordanians, or a mix of Jordanians and Syrian refugees of the programs. I want to now introduce our 2 speakers, and today it's all about them, and we want to hear their stories. But basically, I'll give you an introduction of their bios, and then I will turn to them for questions. But basically, Saeed is a human resource manager at one of the factories in Jordan. He has huge experience in hiring Syrians, and he has more than 25 years of experience in the industry. He is Syrian himself, and he has been working with this factory in Jordan. And today he will be telling us about his experience in Jordan as a Syrian refugee and also in managing Syrian refugees in the factory itself. And then also Nara is one of our graduates of EFE's graduates under one of the programs funded by GIZ in 2023. She has a diploma in business management, and she has been employed at this factory since last year. And she had a training with EFE that enabled her to start her work with the factory. She will tell you a lot more now as we will turn to speak with them. What I like to encourage the participants with us today is to write down your questions, because we encourage each one of you to have sort of a question or a clarification or some sort of a comment or engagement after we speak with the two guests. We will open it to the participants and listen from you, whether you have a question or a comment that you like to share with us. So basically, we want to move to our guests today. So Saeed, I will ask Saeed actually in Arabic, and I think I'll be translating a bit. I know there is translation provided by the computer itself, the platform, but we will also help providing translation from Arabic to English in the chat box. So if you think there is anything missing from the translation, you will find it in the chat box. And we also accept questions and comments on the chat box as well, if you find it more convenient for you. But basically, Saeed, we'd like you to tell us about yourself, about your work in the factory, and then we will move to the relationship with the EFE and how these developed through the previous years. سعيد، احكي لنا عن حالك وعن المصنع، وبعدين بننقل على علاقتك مع EFE وكيف اتطورت. Rama, you're going to insert the things on the chat box. Okay, great.
أول شغلة الله يعطيكم العافية وشكرا على هذه الاستضافة، وكل الشكر لمؤسسة التعليم لأجل التوظيف والقائمين عليها. أنا اسمي سعيد كسار، سوري الجنسية، عمري 37 سنة، أعمل مدير موارد بشرية في شركة التقنية الآمنة للصناعات البلاستيكية منذ 13 سنة. نعم، نحن بدأنا في الشركة منذ عام 1980 واستمرينا في التطور والنمو حتى العام 2011 قبل خروجنا من السوق السوري إلى السوق الأردني. تأسست شركة التقنية الآمنة للصناعات البلاستيكية في الأردن في عام 2012 لتكون شركة صناعية رائدة في مجال الصناعات البلاستيكية على مستوى الأردن والمنطقة. اختصت الشركة بصناعة المواد البلاستيكية بتقنيات النفخ والسحب والحقن، وتنتج مجموعة واسعة من المنتجات المنزلية مثل أدوات النظافة، أدوات المطبخ، مستلزمات حدائق، أدوات منزلية أخرى بما تزيد عن 400 منتج.
ممتاز. هلا يمكن بدك تحكي لنا كموارد بشرية as a human resource manager كيف تعمل الريكروتمنت للموظفين وتحديدا للسوريين، وبناء عليه كيف احنا تعرفنا على بعض، واذا انت استفدت من خدمه EFE بعمليه التوظيف. Saeed is going to tell us about his experience as a human resource manager in recruiting and managing his staff including the Syrian refugees.
نعم، نحن التشاركية بيننا وبين مؤسسة التعليم لأجل التوظيف سهلت علينا الشركة مع مؤسسة التعليم لأجل التوظيف استقطاب العمالة السورية والأردنية اللازم مختلف المهارات والمجالات، إذ أن الشركة كانت تعاني من صعوبة في إيجاد العمالة الملائمة لطبيعة عملنا. لكن الخبرات التي تمتلكها مؤسسة التعليم لأجل التوظيف من ناحية التدريب العملي قبل توظيفها، خاصة بأن الشركة مؤسسة التعليم لأجل التوظيف تهدف إلى تأهيل الشباب والشابات وتدريبهم وتحفيزهم ليصبحوا جاهزين للدخول لسوق العمل، بالإضافة إلى تزويدنا بالموظفين المؤهلين.
تمام. كم موظف عندك هلا بالمصنع، وقد ايه منهم سوريين، وقد ايه منهم EFE ساهمت بانه
نحن حاليا عندنا 270 موظف، تم التدريب من قبل مؤسسة التعليم لأجل توظيف 225 موظف تم تدريبهم على داخل الشركة.
سوريين.
سوريين عندنا تقريبا حوالي 70.
Okay, so Saeed is saying the factory has about 270 employees. 225 of them were provided by EFE after training them on the skills needed for the job in his factory, and 70 of those are Syrian refugees. بدك تحكي لنا عن إنتاجية الموظف السوري وكيف أنت بتحس إنه عم تتعامل مع الموظف أو الموظفة السورية؟
نعم، هلا نحن بالنسبة للموظفين السوريين
عن التزامهم، عن التحاقهم بالعمل.
نعم، يتمتع الموظفين السوريين بشكل عام بالاجتهاد والمرونة في التعامل مع التحديات، ويظهرون تفاني في أداء واجبهم الوظيفي، كما أنهم يمكن إضافة تنوع ثقافي ولغوي إلى بيئة العمل، مما يعزز التفاعل الإيجابي بين الفريقين.
أوكي هلا. Okay, so basically this is an introduction by Saeed about the factory and what they do. I suggest we're going to hear from Nara, and then we will come back to Saeed for the challenges that he is facing in the factory, and then we will see how we can address those. نارا رح نرجع لك مشان التحديات بعد شوي. نارا بدنا تحكي لنا تعرفينا عن حالك وعن البرنامج اللي أخذتيه وكيف بلشتي مع المصنع وهلا أنت شو عم تعملي معهم. Nara is going to introduce what she's doing, how like I mean introduce herself and tell us about her experience with the EFE and the factory.
مساء الخير، اسمي نارا بشار، حاملة الجنسية السورية، حاصلة على شهادة دبلوم في إدارة الأعمال، خريجة جامعة لمونوس. طبعا جيت للأردن من سوريا عام 2013. لما جيت تم إنه أخذت منحة للدراسة. بعد ما أخذت منحة فإنه صرت بدي أشتغل، فقدمت عن طريق رابط على السوشيال ميديا لمؤسسة EFE، هدفها إنه التدريب من أجل التوظيف. فتم قبولي بهاي المؤسسة، والمؤسسة عبارة عن تدريب لمدة 16 ساعة 4 أيام، وبعدين 10 أيام بالميدان بالتدريب تقني بالشركة للتعرف على العمل على أرض الواقع. ومن ثم تم قبولي في الوظيفة.
وقديت وظفتي وهلا انت شو وظيفتك بالمصنع؟
هلا انا من شهر حزيران لعام 2023 من سنه توظفت بالشركه عامله تعبئه وتغليف على خط انتاج بالبدايه، بعدين تم تطويري لمشغله ماكينه.
she got promoted to the machine operator recently because obviously of her hard work and of her dedication to her work. Now I want to get back to Saeed and ask him as an HR manager if there are any challenges specifically about recruiting Syrian refugees in the factory. صعوبات انك توظف سوري بالمصنع.
بنواجه صعوبة حصول الموظف السوري على تصريح عمل اللي دخل بعد 2017 إلى الأردن. هاي بنواجه فيها صعوبة لأنه لا يمتلك هوية أمنية هي بطاقة الجالية السورية، بالإضافة أن الراتب 260 دينار لا يكفي لتلبية احتياجات الحياة الأساسية مثل الإيجار والمصروف اليومي وإرسال المساعدات إلى ذويهم في سوريا. هذا التحدي يؤثر على عملية التوظيف والزيادة من التكاليف المرتبطة بشكل كبير.
Tamam. So if I know that there is translation, but I want to emphasize. So basically, there is a list of closed professions by the government, by the Ministry of Labor, that closes some professions for the Syrian refugees and some other migrant workers leaving these jobs for the Jordanians in Jordan to eliminate competition and so on. So first of all, there is a whole list of closed professions. Now, working in this factory is not closed for Syrian refugees, they can. But what Saeed is saying is that those who left Syria early on, before 2017, they were able to get the card from UNHCR that enables them to proceed with the residency and with the work permits and working in these private sector. But he is saying after 2017, those coming from Syria do not have access to this card. Now, I have no idea what the process from the government is. Maybe it's worth investigating. And if we have people with us who have an insight on this topic in particular, that would be good to hear from. Or otherwise, we are going to investigate ourselves and see. Saeed told me earlier that he has been speaking with different UN agencies to see if this topic can be addressed and if there is a way around it so that we get those people coming after 2017 the opportunity for them to work. Also في تحديات تانية بتحب تحكي عنها بالنسبة للموظفين للموظفات، مثلا المواصلات، الأمور، هل بتعملوا مواصلات
لا، نحن مصنعنا بيقبل مواصلات ولكافة الموظفين، ودوامنا نحن عبارة عن 24 ساعة مصنع شغال بالطاقة.
روتيشن.
نعم.
وفي رجال وستات.
في عندنا رجال ونساء، عدد الموظفين 270 تقريبا، في حوالي 70 موظفة من بينهم سوريا والبنان.
Okay, so Saeed is saying that his factory or the factory he works with provides transportation for all the staff, which is really great, something we encourage the private sector to do, because as he said earlier, the minimum wage in Jordan is 260 JDs, which will not be enough if it's still going to need to cover transportation and other expenses. So it's a great contribution from the private sector when they provide transportation for their staff. I'm going to ask Nara another question and then open it for the participants to start asking us, and preferably if you guys could post your question on the chat box, maybe it will allow us to process them. And also, if it helps a lot, if you like to address your question to a specific person from the speakers today, whether Saeed, Nara, or me, or if you have any specific comment or general comment that you like to contribute with. But I want to go back to Nara and ask you, how do you think are you integrating into the factory, and what's your advice to Syrian refugees who are perhaps not working in Jordan? شو بتنصحي؟ شو خبرتك بالمصنع؟ وهل بتنصحي الصبايا السوريين اللي ببيوتهم شو يعملوا؟
هلا أنا بالبداية كان عندي خوف من إني أطلع أشتغل، خصوصا إنه بلد مو بلدي، بس بالعكس الدورات التدريبية اللي أخذتها كتير ساعدتني بتعزيز ثقتي بنفسي، إنه ضل جاهد لأنه أطور من حالي. بعدين الشركة اللي اشتغلت فيها شركة التقنية الآمنة طبعا كتير وفرت بيئة مناسبة للعمل، خصوصا للبنات، كان قسم البنات لحال، قسم الشباب لحال، هذا الشيء مريح لنا. موفرين المواصلات، وبالإضافة للمدراء والمشرفين اللي جيدين وممتازين، وبالإضافة إنه بيعملوا مكافآت وحوافز للعامل إنه يطور من حاله. هلا بالنسبة للشابات بحب وجه رسالة لكل شابة سورية إنه ما تخافي، طلعي اشتغلي، لأنه ما في شيء مستحيل. يعني لما أنت بصير عندك اكتفاء ذاتي أول شيء من جهة الراتب، فأنت بقوي عندك هذا الشيء بيعزز الثقة بنفسك، وما في داعي إنك تستني معونة من حدا أو راتب من حدا، لأنه أنت خلاص صار عندك اكتفاء ذاتي، وبتلبي احتياجاتك الخاصة، وبتساعدك على التطوير من نفسك واتخاذ قرارات لحالك.
Excellent. Okay, so of course, from Nara's experience, she's happy. She's a productive woman today. who is generating her own income. And she says, I'm not waiting for anybody for assistance, financial assistance. I'm being able to maintain, my decent life with the salary and with the job. And of course, she's getting promoted, which is really great for her career. She's encouraging other girls and Syrian women in Jordan to pursue their work, which leads to their independence financially, economically, and then this helps them with their self-confidence, and this is very important, of course. So thanks to both of you. We'll come back to you with more questions in a bit, but I want to open it for the participants to tell us if you guys have any specific question to any of us over here speaking about this topic. Whether you like, I don't know if I think you can, I think, raise your hand or something. I don't know how this works, but I mean, people can just, I think, can they unmute and ask the questions, or shall they write in the chat box? I think the two options are available. I think if you like to ask questions, just unmute yourself and go ahead. Otherwise, we're also happy to receive your questions by the chat box. Just let us know if, because it's also very important if we have people from the participants who would like to share their own perception or experience, or something about something similar that you have done. Maybe I see lots of people from different countries around the world, not necessarily working with Syrian refugees per se, but perhaps other refugees in other countries. So maybe a lesson or a best practice, or something that you like to share with us, or a question to the guests or to EFE.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a question, Ghadeer. So first of all, thank you so much. Very insightful, and congratulations to all the team. I'm particularly curious, in your conversations, this is for you or anyone on the EFE team, sort of what were the main biases that you also saw, like, from employers when you were trying, per se, like, to pitch your talent? Because we certainly know of, and so, like, what were most of those? How you worked, with trying to remove the biases, for sure.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I'm glad we're starting to have some questions in the chat box that we will come to later. But regarding the bias, let me tell you a little bit about the refugees in Jordan. And of course, we have to highlight the Syrian refugees because of their high percentage in Jordan, as I mentioned earlier. So the bias is actually in two ways. Some places and some corporate companies, factories, restaurants actually like to hire Syrian refugees. It's no secret, Syrian refugees are known to have very good customer service skills. They are very disciplined when it comes to the time of work, all of the processing the instructions or the job requirements and all of that. This is easier sometimes for lots of employers. So this is actually a bias for them. Now, the other challenge could be the laws themselves have some sort of conservation towards hiring Syrian refugees, with the fear of course, we have a very high unemployment rate among Jordanians. So there is always this debate of whether any refugees or any migrant workers in Jordan, or actually this is, I think, something like, all of the countries, of course, think about when they speak about their own unemployment rates, which is whether the migrants or the refugees are taking the jobs of the nationals of that country. So this is why they start sort of reducing the list of open professions, direct them towards those that perhaps are not so much wanted by the Jordanians, so that they fill the gap with jobs that might not affect the opportunities for Jordanians. Now, since 2015 almost, and especially after the compact and all of the agreements the government of Jordan has made with so many other countries in order to help the Syrian refugees. There was a great push towards helping Syrian refugees, helping them with introducing more work permits for them. And since then, there have been changes. Of course, we're learning from this whole experience. We now, for example, there is a law where we can help the Syrian refugees get what we call flexible work permits. This allows Syrian refugees to be more agile, changing jobs, not being really bound by one employer, and they have to serve a specific time and so on. This gives them more agility to work between, to change their jobs, change the employers if they get a better opportunity, take a good salary. The government has given some incentives to Syrian refugees that, for example, their work permit costs much less than any work permit given to any other migrant worker. So there have been some incentives from the government to incentivize Syrian refugees to work, but also for the private sector to employ them. And there were lots of other incentives for the factories. If you employ a percentage of the Syrian refugees, you can get incentives to export to Europe, to export to the US, and so on. So there have been a push but I mean, there is also a list of a whole list of uncertainties for the Syrian refugees in Jordan, whether they are applying for immigration outside Jordan, whether they intend to stay, or whether they want to go somewhere else, or whether they want to go back home to their country, and so on. So there are lots of variables, but at least under the circumstances, we think that there are more flexible work permits being issued in the past at least couple of years that are hopefully making it easier for Syrians to find jobs and for Jordanian employers to welcome Syrians into their corporates. I hope I answered your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think you're also posing a great point in terms of like the biases, not only the negative, but the positive ones, but also like how we work on sort of bringing what's the reality of each country concretely, with the different crises going on too. So thank you so much. I think Gazana had a question. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want.
Hiya, yeah, sorry about that. I couldn't figure out how the hand raising feature worked because my computer was being a bit dodgy. But yeah, I just wanted to ask because I work for GoodFX and we run education programs for refugees in Kenya. And one of our projects for the summer has been to kind of see how we can reduce the gender imbalance we've kind of observed in these programs, because there's far fewer female applicants in the program and far fewer women kind of progressing through it and coming out successful in it. And so I was just wondering if there was any measures that have been implemented, if you guys have observed sort of the same thing, any measures you guys have implemented to try and negate this.
Well, thank you so much for your question. So I see different dimensions of the question, and I'm trying to break it down a little bit. So let's start with digital inclusion, whether it's for males or females to start with. So digital depends. Now, if we're talking about digital jobs per se, in Jordan, it's a closed profession in general for the Syrian refugees in Jordan. So the alternative that we came up with as EFE and some other providers in Jordan in this case is to train them on what we call the online freelancing. So through different programs, through different fundings, we were able to train Jordanians and Syrians to become online freelancers on different gig platforms. So we provide different types of training on the platforms themselves, how to navigate these platforms, just creating a profile, being competitive, looking for opportunities, bidding, and all of that. And then when you receive an opportunity, how you could apply, how do you price it, how do you, follow up, how do you get your payment, and all of these things. So this enabled lots of Jordanians and Syrians to become online freelancers, to generate income from the laptop. Some donors actually were very, very generous to not only provide that, but also provide laptops for these people, because in the end, even if you get the training without connectivity to the internet or laptops, it's really hard to move anywhere with your skills. AFD, the French, for example, is one of the biggest donors who have helped a lot in providing laptops as well as the training for the Syrians and Jordanians to be able to help them become online freelancers. Now, the female male issue, I think, so for the digital in particular, it needs some sort of literacy, digital literacy, and some sort of higher education. Although if you ask the IT people, they will tell you you don't need to be a university grad to be a coder, for example. But in reality, to be an online freelancer, being able to navigate all of these platforms, you have to have some sort of digital literacy to be able to do that. So the issue in Jordan, from what we see, and I don't have right now statistics for that, but the Syrian refugees in Jordan are not necessarily holding higher education degrees. So you might not really find a lot of them with skills that will enable them to go into the gig economy or the digital inclusion programs. So that's an issue. Now, females and males, we have seen lots of enthusiasm, and both of them want to, of course, culturally speaking, Syrians always want to make the best of any opportunity. They will look for a job. They will definitely look for an economic opportunity. They're not the type of people who would usually sit and wait for assistance. So it's in their DNA. So they will definitely try it. But again, the digital knowledge might not be their strength, especially for the ones remaining in Jordan. Perhaps the ones who came earlier maybe had more skills, but we don't have many of them right now. Lots of them migrated already. So what we're, by the way, putting all of this aside, reminding everyone that this is working in the informal sector. So when they become online freelancers, this means they would work in the informal sector. There is lots of discussion and debate with the government about that. This might not be ideal for the government because, of course, they want to formalize the sector. They want to make sure things are registered for so many different reasons. And right now, this is not obtained necessarily because the priority for us and for the donors right now is to just help them generate income. And we will worry about the formalization in a later stage. We also want to help the government formalize the economy for sure, but there are priorities right now for people who just want to live, just to provide a decent living for their families. I hope I answered your question. And if you have a follow-up question, please do let me know.
Thank you so much. That's great.
Excellent. And I think we have another either question or comment. Let me see. Okay, Mohammad, what type of trainings or education you give the refugees? The reach is a very nice, both of them are nice questions, but let me start with the reach and the engagement with the local communities. So basically we have lots of partnerships with different players in the ecosystem. For example, we have a very strong partnership with the UNHCR, where of course, they have their own data protection policy. They will never, of course, share their data with any partner. But what happens is that we agree with them whenever we have an ad or an announcement or a training that we want to open, we tailor it in a way, we give them the text, and they, on our behalf, send it to the relevant youth from the refugees. For example, we tell them We need this text to be given, for example, to females in these governorates, this age, and this and that. And as part of the text, it says that we encourage youth who are interested to click on something or call someone or fill something and so on, and we carry on with them. This is one of the channels. Another channel is we have lots of affiliations with CBOs, community-based organizations, which also allows us, these organizations always have very good reach with their own local communities. So we hold events at these community-based organizations, or they post on our behalf on their social media. Also, in addition to all of that, we have as EFE a strong visibility on our own social media channels, Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn for the university students, and so on. We post lots of those on our social media, and we get lots of feedback and connections from youth. Another very nice channel is the alumni themselves. So usually when people get to take some of our training programs, benefit from the program, get employed, they are happy to link more of their friends, family, relatives, neighbors to our programs and tell them about EFE and our programs, which makes it another very good connection activity. Now, the type of trainings and education we give to refugees, perhaps if we go a little bit to, let me see if we can, no, I want last. Yes, let me go here and show you quickly. These are the tracks that we covered earlier. And these include both the Jordanians and Syrians. So basically, either track, the first track, which is training and placement, which is basically anything that has demand in the market. So when we say employment, before we open any class, this class has to be directly connected with the demand in the market. So we have a whole department within the organization that always studies the demand in the market, and we tailor our programs accordingly. For example, it happens these days that the vocational and technical jobs have high demand. Also, the ICT sector, the gig economy, the cybersecurity, the coding, and all of these have high demand. But before we open any class, it has to be directly connected. Now, what makes it special for the refugees is that even if there is demand in the market, we have to comply, of course, with the rules and regulations of the government about the open and closed professions for Syrian refugees. So not only we look into the demand, we have to look into the professions and whether refugees can join them or not. But also we help them become self-employed, doing things from home, which is again, so far, mostly lies under the informal sector. But again, our justification is we want to put them on the road so that they start generating income. And then as part of the training, we encourage them that after they start having sustainable income for a steady period of time, the benefits of formalizing and then helping them formalize their work under different programs. But we prefer formalizing their businesses, if I may call them businesses because they are micro businesses in this case. We help them formalize, but we want to make sure that we protect them from failing to comply when they register their companies. So we believe we give them the tools, but we wait a little bit until they have a steady income before we really help them to really go and register. With the higher education, it's mostly for the Jordanians, but the others, for example, the global job market, the jobs, as I mentioned earlier, the online freelancing, for example, benefits Syrian refugees as well. And so on. So basically the training programs, most of our training programs target both, but when we tailor for the refugees, it has to comply with the government rules and regulations. Mohammad, I hope I answered your question. I wonder which organization, Mohammad, you come from? Thank you so much. But yeah, I'm curious to know which organization, UN, are you in Jordan? Just by Okay, excellent. So we have a very strong connection with the World Food Program, actually. We have been discussing with the WFP. It's great what the World Food Program is doing for the Syrian refugees in Jordan and other refugees in Jordan, actually. But we all know that the assistance, financial or food assistance, is really might not be enough, as the growing numbers of the refugees is only increasing, and the people who need the assistance. So now we're trying to find a way to help people receiving assistance from the WFP and the UN agencies, UNHCR and others, so that we work on something we call the graduation program, so that people can graduate from the need for assistance from the UN. So this is something we've been discussing with the WFP and other UN agencies. We think if we give them a profession, if we give them the skills so that they start generating income themselves, then perhaps they will graduate from the WFP and the UN programs, allowing for other people who are in more needs to receive this sort of financial assistance. We're doing something similar, by the way, for the Jordanians, receiving assistance from the NAF, the National Aid Fund under the Ministry of Social Development as well, because so many of them are receiving these financial assistance from the government, and at some point the government will not have enough money to give service to all of these people, and we would like to encourage people to graduate from this assistance. So we try to provide them with the skills needed so that they start a business or a job or an income generating activity, so that they can just graduate from these programs. So I appreciate your question, and we will continue the discussion with the WFP at some point of time as well. I wonder if anybody else have any comment, question, recommendation, anything that anyone, or maybe tell us about the organization you are working with, and whether there's a story you want to tell us about your own programs that aligns with perhaps what we're saying today. I would like to encourage you to let us hear your voice and hear from you if you have any stories or questions. Otherwise, I want to also ask, I'll come back to Saeed and Naya for now, perhaps until other people maybe get more ideas about questions or comments that you like to ask. But maybe Saeed, if we come back and speak about, sorry, much appreciated. One more question, and I guess I might connect you with some. Of course, absolutely. Mohammad, if you have another question before I move to the guests, please go ahead. You can ask right now if you like in the chat box. Okay, I'll go ahead with the guests, and please, if you have any questions, please do let us know. And actually, while I'm asking the guests, I also want to just leave our email addresses for anyone who likes to reach to us after this presentation, after this panel, with any questions, ideas, or comments, or anything that you like to share with us. We're more than happy to continue the conversation. So you can take a screenshot of the screen, or just take the notes of the email addresses, and we will be happy to connect with all of you after. But right now, I want to go back to Saeed and ask, مثلا انتم عم تأمنوا مواصلات، شو كمان عم تعطوا فوائد للطرفين؟ اكيد ما عم تميزوا بين الجنسيات، بس انتم عم تعطوا فوائد للي عم تشتغل بالمصنع مثل المواصلات. في شغلات تانية عم تأمنوا لهم اياها لحتى تساعدوهم؟
هلا في بنعمل لهم مواصلات زائد حوافز، زائد مكافآت على الإنتاج المصروف له، زائد في مكافأة إنه إذا كان هذا الموظف ملتزم لمدة شهر كامل بصرف له بدل المواصلات بقيمة 15 دولار إذا ما غاب، بالإضافة لبعض الوجبات الطعام والمكافآت الإنتاجية من المصروفات. إذا كان في أشخاص مثلا غير مؤمن مشمول بخط الباص مواصلات تبع الشركة، ممكن نحن نصرف له بدل المواصلات. اليوم تقريبا حوالي دينارين.
Okay,
No.
okay, عظيم. So Saeed is telling us about the benefits he gives to all of the employees of the factory, including transportation, and in bonuses or incentives for example, the staff member who has been, for example, very punctual with their time, not taking too many leaves, and all of these sort of things. They give them side incentives for this as well. Also, they provide meals because, as he mentioned earlier, the factory works on a 24-hour basis with shifts and rotations. So, of course, the staff are going to need lots of type of incentives and meals and all of this. Nara, كم ساعة عم تقضي بالمصنع؟ كل يوم؟
8 ساعات دوام.
اوكي، وعم تيجي على اي شفت؟
شفت الصباح لما الساعة 8 الساعة 4.
يمكن الشباب عم بيغطوا الشفت المسائي.
لا طبعا.
Okay, so this is very nice actually, that the employer is really considering the gender constraint about a woman not wanting to work late hours in the factory. So what Saeed and Nara are saying, Nara is working 8 hours in the morning shift, and the men are working in the late shifts at night and through the night. So this is considerate, of course, since of course, like the employers are not supposed to force, of course, any employee to be working in hours that are not convenient for them. And we respect when corporates are really aware of this. So this is really good. Mohammad, you're asking, with the spread of unemployment, the difficulty of obtaining employment, have you thought about creating small businesses that could be a source of income for refugees and Jordanians? Absolutely, Mohammad. If we go back to, let me check, if we go back to this brochure, we can look quickly to أنا أعرف شيء مختلف عنك. Okay, so actually the entrepreneurship / self-employment is the type of, is the track that encourages youth to create not only small, we call them micro businesses sometimes. So these are the businesses they can start to generate income. And by doing so, we have lots of, as mentioned here in the brochure, either the aspiring entrepreneurs or established or startups. So basically, in different, depending on the programs and the design of the programs, we sometimes start with women who have no idea about anything. They don't know what is it, that they know that they want to generate income, and they have this, they're encouraged to do that, but they don't know where to start from. They don't know the idea. So we start with the ideation of what she can do, what she's good at, what she likes to do, and then develop it into an idea, and then develop it into the skills needed to produce this idea. And then we provide them with financial training about finances, access to finance, marketing, digital marketing, how to open their own Instagram page to be able to sell the product or the service we're talking about. So this is part of the training we do. The second one, the existing or established entrepreneurs, we actually worked with several projects. USAID, a USAID project was one of them, where we targeted women who are already generating some income, but it's not, of course, enough, and they wish to grow it. So we help them, we train them to grow their business. And the indicators, the KPIs for that program was more income to be generated after the program, plus for them to be able to hire someone else. So also this becomes a job creation activity, which is really amazing. So they become an employer themselves for other people joining their programs. And this applies for both, for the Syrian refugees and for the Jordanians as well. So we try to compensate for, of course, there are lots of obstacles and challenges for specifically women who cannot work as a full-timer in jobs. So this becomes a great opportunity for them. For example, and all the reports speak about the lack of nurseries, the difficulty of transportation, or leaving her kids at home unattended. The nurseries might be expensive in their areas. Lots of obstacles, and we also have the obstacle of cultural issues. Sometimes women don't want to work with a mixed gender environment, so she doesn't want to go and work in the private sector itself. So lots of obstacles encourage them, the women, to be working from home. They prefer it in so many occasions. So we give them this option, especially if we talk about the governorates. There are not enough private sector opportunities in the governorates anyways, specifically in the south, but also in so many other cities in the north. So the lack of private sector opportunities in so many areas makes it impossible for men or women to be working as full-timers. So the only option becomes to do something from home. And for us, we created some very nice programs specifically for women that are very much in demand. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important to be realistic about selecting the sectors. Let me give you two examples. The first one is we realized women in Jordan, especially in the conservative areas, do not want to fix their mobiles with men, to give the mobile to a man to fix the mobile, for several reasons. One of them is that if she is veiled and then she has photos on the mobile that she doesn't want men to see, then she becomes very much reluctant on sending her mobile to be fixed by men. And then, so we found this as an opportunity for EFE to train women on mobile maintenance. So we started training women in so many governorates right now to be able to use the tools of the mobile maintenance tools, even buy them the toolkit by the end of the training, and they become, they provide mobile maintenance for their neighbors, for their friends, for their family, of course, females to females, which makes it a win-win situation for everyone. Another similar example is plumbing. So many women, especially in conservative areas, do not want plumber men to come to the house, with the absence of the men of the house to come and fix things related to, the pipes and the plumbing and so on. So we found this as a great opportunity for us to train women to do this job. So we train women to become plumbers, and then they can do this job for the other women at home. So we're trying to be really very much innovative about finding tracks and ideas to generate the income, because as I mentioned earlier, and as part of the self-employment or entrepreneurship, we train them to sell goods or services, but selling goods is not that easy because of the purchasing power and okay, you will find ladies who are really good at doing candles, making candles, for example. How many women in their poor poverty pockets, poor areas, are going to be really buying these products? And then selling them is going to be difficult, and the sustainability of her business, if you want to call it a business, is really going to be jeopardized by lots of factors. So services, we think, is more, it's something that is needed sometimes more than the products that people can perhaps deprioritize. So we provide all these sorts of programs for the youth, Jordanians and Syrians. And actually, there's another aspect that is not even in the brochure yet, but we are now also training inmates in prisons. These are the target audience. Of course, this doesn't differentiate between Jordanians and Syrians. So we go to the prisons, of course, with the collaboration with the authorities, the general security authorities, and as part of their own vision of the rehabilitation of the prisoners. And of course, EFE is concerned about their economic situation after graduating from the prison. We want them to be able to be ready to face the financial challenges when they leave the prisons. And therefore, we try to select those who are going to leave the prison in the coming 3 to 6 months. We train them on making things, becoming entrepreneurs or self-employed micro-entrepreneurs, so that by the time they graduate from the prison, they can generate income on their own, because especially in the beginning, it's going to be difficult facing the community and being able to find a job, or even thinking about an idea to become an entrepreneur becomes really difficult with everything else that is happening in around them. So we try to prepare them before they finish their sentence in the prisons, and that's really yes, that's really nice. And we just started doing that with funding from EU, the European Union, which has been really successful, and we are intending to do more of that in the future. We see the impact. There is another element of, or another target audience we try to provide service to, which is, of course, the people with disabilities. So we don't do it as a charity work. Working with people with disabilities also incorporates an economic empowerment element to it. But we try to institutionalize it so that we give a sustainable income for these people with disabilities. So, for example, we work with institutions of people with disabilities to, through them, we reach to people with disabilities. We train them on selling the goods, usually more than services in this case. And then we train the CBO itself to sell the products on behalf of the people with disabilities and share the profit between them. So this becomes a sustainable model, so that even after finishing the program, these people with disabilities will still be able to sell, produce, be able to generate income. And the CBO, the community-based organization, will have the incentive to sell for them and to advertise for them, hold bazaars and invite people to see their products and be able to sell and share the profit between the two of them. So we try to be very innovative about serving as many people as we can from different target groups. Refugees obviously is one of them, but there are other marginalized groups who we are trying to really reach and help. Thank you, Mohammad. Thank you so much. I think it's part of the work many of us are trying to do, leaving impact around us, which really is very much satisfactory for all of us to see the impact and to see how we're changing these people's lives. If almost 2 months ago, we had the graduation for one of the classes with these people with disabilities. We invited their parents to the graduation. You cannot really express when a parent comes and tells you, my daughter's incentive to wake up in the morning that week was only to come and attend this training. And now she's being able to produce this and that. And now she feels she is selling her products. So not only we're providing the economic empowerment part of things and economic opportunities, but I think it also turns into self-empowerment tool as well. Just like Nara said earlier, it gives youth this self-confidence. It gives them voice in the house. It gives them self-respect and their worth in the community. And I think the beginning of independence comes from financial independence. And now we're towards elections, we're towards lots of things happening in the country, and I know in so many other countries around the world. If a woman is not financially independent, if she doesn't own her voice anymore, whether at home or in the elections or name it. So in order to make an impact national-wide. You have to start, I believe, with economic independence. So we're happy to be serving all of these target groups. And every day we try to think of new ideas and partner with partners who are aligned with us, where together we believe so much in partnership. EFE will not alone solve the unemployment issue in Jordan. Like, we need to collaborate, and we always welcome partnerships, and we want to always reach to partners to complement each other's work to be able to really impact more people. I think Camilla is raising her hand.
Yeah, thank you, Ghadeer. And I'm very inspired by all the things that you're talking about. And I think it's super important also, because of the experience that you have had working with these communities for so long, is that you were also able to sort of establish tracks that adjust to each community. I think like sometimes when we work in the field, like I often see like the people talk as like marginalized communities as like everyone is on the same bucket, and it's not. And like the needs and desires that they have are like very different from one another in terms of like and so for us, I think it's like also as coordinators of these programs is also understanding like that success is like it's different for each of them. It's not like maybe nailing a job, it's like pursuing higher education, maybe relocating to another country, and that's perfectly all right. And we would be thrilled if you're unemployed but are going towards that target, right? Or if maybe you think of the self-employment track and want to be a freelancer, and maybe for some that's not a sustainable pathway, but for others it is too, right? And so I think it's also like having that understanding, and for sure also the change of narrative that you for sure already know is showcasing these communities in terms of like showing like the many things that they could be doing, and like how it's beneficial for the whole ecosystem. It's not that we're doing them a favor, like we're privileged to be working with them, and the companies and corporates and universities that also do so, like it's like mutual benefit all over. I think that's something we have been seeing throughout the summit in many conversations, which I'm thrilled. But I just very much appreciate also like that understanding of like, okay, we need to adjust, what success looks like, what kind of programs we provide, what kind of tracks, timelines, individualized support for each of these communities. So yeah, just, I mean, not a question, just like a reflection, but like, yeah, I think
Absolutely
it's
not.
super important.
Very important to remind ourselves always, Camilla, that there is no one-size-fits-all solution, and each community is very special with their own needs and with their own circumstances. We cannot be just, one-size-fits-all. So we dig deeper into what works, what doesn't work, and what each community requests and requires. So in order to do that, we do lots of, we call it the matching activities, or things that allow us to really provide career counseling, we call them, as part of the filtering process. So when we advertise for any training opportunity for any of the tracks I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned, we start with the demand in the market, but also not any applicant will be accepted into just any program just because they're applying, because sometimes people apply without even knowing their own capacity and potential and needs and desires. So our job is to try to help them explore those. So when we sit with them, we of course, it's a long process, and we have lots of team members within EFE who do this job, which is how why did you apply for this job? Why do you apply for this training program? Don't you think this suits you more? Don't you think maybe if you consider this more, it may be, and as part of it's a dialogue, it's a discussion, and then we are able to match people with the right opportunities. This is very, very important. There is nothing that will serve everyone equally. This is why for all of our programs, actually, the core mission of EFE is, of course, the same, but I don't think there is two programs that are identical between the programs we're implementing. Either the sectors are different, or the target audience are different, or like, I mean, there is so many specific elements and factors that go into the design of everything we do. So we take into account absolutely the need of the people, and then how we can serve the communities to the point where they make the best of the program. So this is really important. And now you're saying the approach, the design process of the programs, design sessions. Curious to hear some. Of course, so basically, for us to design programs, we have so many elements. So basically, we have the what you call the employer partner part, or the economic opportunity. So it can be a job, it can be, as we mentioned, entrepreneurship activities. So this is one part, which is the demand, that needs lots of studying. And we have a complete department with the EFE that does that on daily basis, very much connected with the HR of many professions and corporates in Jordan, for us to be connected with their needs, their challenges, the benefits they provide for people. And then there's a whole department within EFE that does sourcing and outreach for youth. Also, we need to be relevant. So for example, just to give you an example, there is very high demand for housekeeping jobs in Jordan, in hotels, in so many places. Now, okay, that's excellent. So we know that today, if we train 100 youth on housekeeping for hotels, we will definitely find them jobs tomorrow. So that's a great example of a demand in the market. But if we just open it for youth to apply and sit for the training, and then after the training, we realize most of the Jordanian youth, most of them do not want to do housekeeping. So they will either not apply after all, or if they are too bored and they just want to take any sort of training, but then it will not end with an employment opportunity, which is not what we do, because what we do is very much strict to training and education for employment. So in this case, demand is there, supply is not there, so we will not do it. So as part of the design, we need to be realistic towards the demand, but also the supply. Now, in order to change the perception about the supplies mentality, we do the national campaigns, we do the awareness sessions, we do lots of things that will take sometimes years to change. So we're not giving up completely, but for the short-term solution, we don't necessarily see that the matching necessarily takes place, and this will not help choosing these sectors. So as part of the design, we check the demand, we check the supply, and we check the feedback from the alums for sure. So we always have connections with them. We have lots of focus groups with the alumni. We sit with them regularly and we hear feedback from them. We have lots of tools with the pre and post and the evaluations and lots of phone calls. We stay in touch with every single alumni for at least 1 year after the end of after the graduation from the program. That's our bylaws, that's our policy within EFE, minimum 1 year after the end of any program, so that we ask them, what happened with you? Did you work? Did you start generating income? Why did you leave your job? How can you put you back in the workplace? If it's an entrepreneurship activity, then how much you're making, how can we make it more? Why didn't it work for you? How do you think we can improve our training programs in the future so that people like you who join can benefit more? And all of these sorts of, so we must always be inclusive of all of the stakeholders. Of course, also always abiding by all of the compliance issues with the government, as I mentioned earlier, the sectors, the open professions, the laws, and all of these sorts of things. So it's the awareness of the players in the market and being able to co-design. Some donors also have their own technical teams who, from their own experience, discuss with us, and then it becomes a co-design session with the donors themselves. So there is always room for learning from our end as well, from the partners, from the donors, and we benefit a lot from these discussions. And we always welcome comments, ideas, things to think about. We're always open to these ideas, and we're always enthusiastic about exploring new innovative ideas to serve the community. Thanks to you. And today we chose to highlight this example of the factories helping Syrian refugees, because some of the other factories might think that it's a new line for them to hire refugees. But we believe when we share these stories, perhaps we might be able to inspire partners, donors, factories, private sector to be open to hiring these refugees in their own countries, and Jordan and in other countries, to give them the opportunity. And we thought, hearing it from the HR manager, from Saeed, and from one of the team members at the factory right now, it's working beautifully, and we think it's worth working on, it's worth spreading, it's worth encouraging other employer partners to think about and to benefit. It's a win-win. So it's not a charity. When you hire a refugee, this is not for charity. This is really a win-win. So the factory is going to benefit from all of the commitment and all of the good job they're doing, and also, of course, the Syrian refugees will maintain a good, decent job, and then income, and be able to sustain their lives in this country that is hosting them.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Ghadeer, and the rest of the panelists. I don't know if maybe they want to do some last comments, or else I can wrap up the session for sure.
Well, yeah, does anyone want to say anything from your end, Kamila, or shall I start with Saeed and Nara for the last comments?
Yeah, go ahead with that.
اوكي سو سعيد، الاخر جمله بدك تحكيها بلكي للمصانع اذا بشجعهم على توظيف سوريين مثلا من خبرتك انت بالشغل.
أنا بنصح جميع الشركات التعاون مع مؤسسة التعليم لأجل التوظيف بالاستفادة من برامج التدريب والتوظيف لتعزيز فرصهم في سوق العمل.
وبالنسبه لتوظيف السوريين،
بالنسبة لتوظيف السوريين، يعني نشاطهم الاجتماعي الإيجابيات يتمتع الموظفين السوريين بشكل عام بالمرونة والتعامل مع التحديات وأداء واجبهم الوظيفي، كما أنهم عندهم إضافة تنوع ثقافي ولغوي في بيئة العمل، مما يعزز التفاعل الإيجابي بين الفريقين.
تمام. So Saeed is encouraging the factories and the companies to hire Syrians and also work with EFE, because we have been providing them with lots of trained youth who are ready for the job working in the factory. And Nara, يمكن آخر كلمة تقوليها للسوريات اللي موجودين بالبلد.
بحب أقول للسوريات إنه ما في شيء مستحيل، يطلعوا يشتغلوا وما يخافوا من الفشل. بالعكس، الفشل هو أول خطوة للطريق للصعود السلم تبع تحقيق الأهداف، وإن شاء الله يعني يحل الأمن في بلدنا بسوريا وجميع البلدان الدول العربية يا رب.
Shukran, Nara. So also Nara is encouraging all Syrians to go to work, join the workforce. She's saying nothing is impossible. You need to start somewhere, and then you will succeed in your life. And she has taken the first step, and now she's enjoying the career development in her life.
Fantastic, and congratulations to her and to everyone for this amazing work. So I very much appreciate also, the inputs from the corporate partner, sort of also showcasing, why they're continuing to, work with these communities. And yeah, so I can't believe we're actually wrapping up day 4 of the Migration Summit. Tomorrow we will be closing the summit, and I always say how privileged I am to be able to hear the learner stories. And in fact, tomorrow we will be having an innovator showcase where learners from Namal, Karam, MIT Emerging Talent, and some other folks that have been reaching out will be showcasing their projects and what they're doing. And so I very much, encourage everyone to join us for that and for the closing session. Again, thanks to all the EFE team for the great work, and I hope to see you soon. We will also be sharing some of the resources you shared on the chat in our websites and in our comms campaign so that we can continue getting the word out concretely for employers. That's the group we're targeting this year. And so hopefully with some toolkits and recommendations coming out, we can also continue to spark actions from their side. And so thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of day, night, wherever you are in the world.